What is Agile? Is Agile just another buzzword used by people who don't really know? Or is it a way to maximize resources, save time, and greatly increase productivity?
Welcome to Scrum Basics, the Sprint Review and Demo, and the Sprint Retrospective. Now, these two meetings are key in a sprint cycle, and we especially like the Sprint Review and Demo because what this does is provide you the opportunity to both discuss progress, but more importantly, show off what we've done and really gain some buy-in from the business. And it's very important to keep the project moving forward. We don't want to return to the days of manager distrust and command and control. We feel the sprint review, the sprint retrospective keeps the sprint moving and keeps business bought in and more importantly on our side. If you've watched our section on sprint planning, you see how closely sprint planning and the sprint review meeting are related. Really with sprint planning, what you're going to do is build out what you hope to demo in the sprint review and demo meeting. Sometimes there is no demo, but that it's very paramount that in the sprint planning meeting, you guide the sprint such that the goal in mind is a valid demo for the business. If that's not the case, you defer till the next sprint. Our goals for the sprint review meeting. First of all, for the team, let's talk about the stories that were completed for the sprint and establish our velocity. Secondly, for the stakeholders, we want to demo what was completed in the sprint, as we've talked about getting buy-in. First part is just going to be the team, 30 minutes to an hour, talk about stories that were completed. So the basics of this meeting are as follows. The Scrum Master will lead the meeting, and we want to update the JIRA board. In this example, these stories would have been moved along during the daily stand-ups, but we're going to go ahead and move them to symbolize what we would have done over the course of the sprint. So we're moving these stories from to-do to in progress, setting them accordingly. And again, in this process, once they're in process, you would hope the product owner would determine if the stories are done. See our Agile Basics breakout on Agile terminology for a definition of done and acceptance criteria. We won't get into that here. Suffice to say, in this example, the product owner has approved them. They've been moved for completion, and they're set to complete. So as we continue to move the stories along, we see that we've got them all complete. The final one taking a little bit longer symbolically because there's more to test with a functional unit testing team. So we get these moved over, and then we note the fact that although our team velocity was 22, we've gone ahead and completed 25 story points worth of stories. That was by design, just to have enough to include in this demo. So we're not going to change the team velocity, going to leave it as is, as 22. Next up, it's time for the demo. So you get the stakeholders together and get ready to present. Hopefully you've rehearsed this. So for this case, the sprint demo goals include, the user should log into the main screen, and we want to use production data here. So for this example, we're going to take a director's credentials, log in, and then try a wrong password and see if we get a negative result. So in this case, we've logged in with the correct credentials. We're going to see if it does in fact connect, putting in the correct password here. And fingers crossed it works, or else we're going to be embarrassed. It does work. Account verified. So then we're going to negative test with the wrong password. Hopefully we'll get something else. And again, password incorrect, error. It does work on both positive and negative tests. So your takeaway here should be that a successful sprint demo can really help your project and your relationship with the business. But whereas a successful sprint demo can be a boon to your project, a poorly planned, unsuccessful demo can create a bad impression with the business. So we recommend to spend at least 1 to 2 dry runs of the demo before you present to the stakeholders. Next, let's talk about what you should include in the demo and what you should not. For one thing, it needs to be visual. We want to include functioning code, something the stakeholder can look at and say, wow, that's impressive. Visual functionality, not database or code blocks. Nobody wants to see that. They can't relate to it unless they're technical. And secondly, you need to have a polished presenter, where sometimes the developers can relay what they've done, have the product owner, preferably the product owner or the Scrum Master present, and then be able to field questions from the stakeholders if need be. But it needs to be polished and rehearsed. The final meeting in the Scrum process is the Sprint Retrospective. And as we've noted, the Sprint Review and Demo is more for the business, more to take a victory lap. The Sprint Retrospective is a very critical lessons learned opportunity for the team. And this gives the team the opportunity to go look at itself and review things that could improve over each sprint. Course correct if necessary if we see some inefficiencies that can be modified and changed. This is something that differentiates Agile and Scrum from other traditional waterfall project management methodologies because this gives you an opportunity to be efficient, make changes, and improve sprint over sprint. So looking at the overall Scrum cycle, you see at this point we've moved along, we've gone through this, built out the sprint backlog, completed the sprint, and then delivered the product via a demo. Now it's time to step back and study what we can improve upon to make the team that much more efficient. We like to think of the scientific method in which you observe, hypothesize, test the theory, and then conclude, and use the sprint retrospective to study and try again. We see the sprint retrospective as the bridge from one sprint to the next, and we love this image because it demonstrates that. The goal, remember, should be incremental improvement, and we use the retrospective to identify ways to improve such that each sprint becomes better as we go along. So details about this meeting, the Scrum Master should lead this. It should be a 1-hour meeting, and then it should take place after the sprint review and then before the next sprint planning meeting. That's the whole point. Get some lessons learned and improve for the next sprint. So in this meeting, we want to learn 2 things. What went well? What didn't go so well? And then any action items that come out of that. Those action items are key, as we'll see in this example that we stepped through. So for the sprint retrospective, we recommend using software such as this. We've got sprint boards here, and having the team either fill it out anonymously or getting together and everybody taking maybe 10 minutes and adding their entries, which is what I typically do because I like to have that culture of honesty. So here we've identified 3 items that went well, 3 that didn't, and 2 action items. So the first one we want to look at, the demo was successful. That was a huge positive, as you saw from the sprint review and demo example we did. Also exceeded team velocity, right? We got 25 points completed when our normal team velocity is 22. And then, of course, the team completed all required work, which doesn't always happen. So that was a bonus. So now we want to look at what didn't go well, and this is the most important in our mind because that's how you continually improve. So we want to talk about the demo here. The demo, we got a little bit too technical by looking at lines of code, which we don't really want to do because then the business will kind of lose focus. And then also, it's kind of a flip side of the positive, right? We exceeded team velocity. That was good, but it was also difficult and created a lot of stress on the team. And then something we hadn't anticipated was the fact that 2 team members were going to it was unplanned PTO. So we didn't really calculate the capacity or have any contingencies in case they weren't available. The team finished the work, but it was very stressful. So now taking this and want to look for the next sprint. So what are our action items? Nothing too significant, but the key is to let's maintain velocity and don't exceed it unless it's absolutely necessary. And then also do a better job of analyzing the team calendar to see what the team's capacity is versus the velocity that we've committed to on a sprint over sprint basis. So and that's it. The team has completed the Scrum process. We're ready to start the next sprint. We hope you found this useful and can apply this for your sprints for successful Agile projects.
Thanks for watching our video. Please subscribe to our channel and join us next time.